Hello and welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Liz and today is True Crime Tuesday. Today's story is pretty up there on the bizarre scale and you'll see why as we get into it. But this one happened only 15 days ago and fairly close to home for me. We're going to Brattleboro, Vermont today. Brattleboro is a cool city. I grew up about an hour away from it. It's very cute and Vermont, and yes, Vermont can be an adjective, and if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Anyways, two of my favorite things from Brattleboro were the Beeline bus, which was covered in bees, and the strolling of the heifer celebration, where local businesses and farmers will parade down with heifers, parodying the running of the bulls, but also to promote the local businesses. It's really cool, and I might just need to go there this year. So, unfortunately, we're not going to Brattleboro today for cute and fun things. We're going to start today's story by meeting Leah Rosin-Pritchard. Leah was a 36-year-old from Rhode Island. She was described as a kind and compassionate person who genuinely cared about the needs of others. After graduating from high school, Leah would opt to start working aboard small cruise ships that traveled the Hudson River. It was there that she would learn to bake and eventually develop her own healthy baking brand, which she called Leah's Recipe. She did this through a company called Hope in Maine. She would later go on to get a psychology degree from Rhode Island College and then go on to get her master's in social work from the same school. She finished this in 2019. During the time she was earning her graduate degree, she spent time interning at the Amos House, which helped the homeless in Providence, Rhode Island. From there, she would start a new life with her partner Alex in Westminster, Vermont, where the couple would buy a house together. Leah would start her new career in Brattleboro, Vermont, working for Groundworks Creative, where she was well received. She was quickly promoted to a coordinator position and was working at the Morningside House Shelter, which was described as having rooms for occupants with a common living space and kitchen. It was here that she would meet, and I'm only going to pronounce her full name once, and then I'm just going to call her Zaaina. But Zaaina Asra Zakirrah Mahvish-Jammeh. There's no way I got that completely correct, so I apologize. Anyways, Zaaina, not even sure how to pronounce that. It's a cool name though. She was from Gambia, but it is unclear at this time the circumstances that brought her to the Morningside House Shelter. It is reported that she had been staying there since the previous summer. So on April 3rd, 2023, at around 9:30 a.m., Zaaina would come into the shelter and request a meeting with Leah. Specifically, she wanted to meet with Leah in the living room. A staff member remembers thinking this was odd, and Leah remarked the same thing before going in to meet with Zaaina in the living room. The security cameras would catch some of what happened, and what can first be seen was Zaaina dressed oddly, with a sheet hanging over the right side of her body and wearing safety glasses. It also appears that she has some sort of solid object hidden under the sheet. So Zaaina requests a meeting with Leah. Leah is like, strange, but went to the living room to see what was going on. Unfortunately, the beginning of their exchange was not caught on camera, but very shortly after Leah entered the room, there was some muffled conversation followed by screaming and thudding. Then they came into the view of the camera, and what they would see was simply horrifying. Zaaina was attacking Leah with a small hatchet. Leah's co-workers apparently called 911 and were screaming at Zaaina to stop, but no one did anything to stop her. Now, I know this situation is crazy and everyone will react differently in an emergency, but the way that this was described as going down does pose some questions. So her coworkers watched in horror and screamed at her to stop, and at one point, Zaaina even stopped to address one of them, stating, "I like you, it's Lee I didn't like." Then she went into the kitchen to grab a knife to continue hacking away at Lee. Then she went back to using the axe. Anyhow, no one stopped her during or after the attack, and the reason stated was that Zaaina was basically swinging the axe like crazy, and no one wanted to get near her, which is understandable. Obviously, they were afraid for their own lives. So crazy, and I'm sure traumatizing. I can't even imagine. So after she was satisfied that Leah was dead, Zaaina took off her safety glasses and overalls and put on a bunny ear headband. That's right, a bunny ear headband. She was just pacing around in this headband, still carrying the axe when police would arrive, and then she would just surrender to them without incident. Lee was pronounced dead on the scene by medical examiners, with significant wounds to her face, neck, and torso. It was learned that Zaaina had purchased the axe 2 days prior from an Ace Hardware store, and it was described as a hunter's axe. Zaaina didn't speak during her arraignment, and her lawyer entered a not guilty plea on her behalf. Zaaina will be undergoing a psychological evaluation to determine if she is fit to stand trial. She is being tried for first-degree murder, and she is facing a minimum term of 35 years or life without the possibility of parole. In light of this tragedy, the shelter is giving their employees 3 weeks off and housing the other occupants in a nearby hotel. The safety of people working in these types of jobs is also understandably under scrutiny. I feel that maybe there should have been some sort of protocol that could have kept this from happening, but I really don't want to pass too much more judgment than that without knowing all the facts. Suffice to say that it is being looked at, and it should be. This really should have never happened. To honor Lee's memory, the family asks that you practice compassion, empathy, and kindness, and as her great mother used to say, be ever mindful of the needs of others. Well, that's going to do it for today's story, but I do want to leave you on a more positive note. So here's a quick bit about a girl named Zakirrah from Vermont as well, who adopted a very special cat named Arminius. Arminius was instantly drawn to Zakirrah, but before that he failed to thrive in other homes. So it turns out Arminius had a feline version of a rare connective tissue disease that Zakirrah also suffered from. Not only that, after adopting Arminius and sharing their story with the Petco Foundation, Zakirrah was able to win a $5,000 grant for her local humane society, Homeward Bound. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think about today's stories in the comments, and please be safe out there. Bye!